My name is Julia Foster, and at 32, I've built a life I'm proud of. I'm a data analyst in Orlando, Florida, climbing the ranks at a top tech company, earning more than I ever dreamed. It's a far cry from my childhood when my world fell apart at 9. My mom walked out on my dad and me after their divorce, leaving us to scrape by. I worked hard, fought for every opportunity, and thought I'd left that pain behind. But then, one autumn evening, everything changed. A knock at my apartment door brought my past crashing back. My mom had somehow found out how much I earn, and she showed up with my spoiled half-brother demanding I hand over a fortune. Their words hit like a punch, bold, shameless, and dripping with entitlement. It wasn't just about money, it was a betrayal that cut deep. How far would they go to get what they wanted? And what secrets were they hiding? I was about to find out, and it would test everything I thought I knew about family. If you've ever faced a family betrayal, drop a comment below and share your story. It means a lot to hear from you. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more real-life drama. I never thought my mom would find me because of the money I make. Growing up in Ohio, my life changed forever at 9 years old. My mom, Marie Stone, walked out on my dad, David Foster, and me after their marriage fell apart. She'd grown distant, always distracted, until one evening she grabbed a suitcase and left without a word. Dad later told me she'd fallen for another man, someone who promised her a better future. The divorce was quick, leaving us with a small house and a mountain of bills. Mom didn't just leave. She vanished, starting a new life across the state. Years later, I learned she had my half-brother Caleb Grant with her new husband. She never called, never visited, only sent a yearly birthday card with a few cold words that stung more than they comforted. Dad poured everything into keeping us afloat. He ran a small diner, a greasy spoon serving breakfast and burgers, working from dawn to midnight. He'd flip pancakes, scrub counters, and ring up customers, his hands rough from endless hours. The diner barely broke, even some days he brought home less than $50 after expenses. Rent was always late and the fridge was often empty. Dad hid his worry, but I saw it in his slumped shoulders, the way he'd sigh over unpaid bills. He'd come home exhausted, yet still made time to ask about my day, his voice warm, despite the strain. At 13, I couldn't stand watching him struggle alone. I started babysitting for neighbors staying up late to watch their kids while studying by flashlight. Soon, I took on more stocking shelves at a corner store, cleaning houses after school, even delivering newspapers before dawn. Every dollar I earned went to Dad for groceries or the electric bill. He'd argue, saying I should be a kid, not a breadwinner, but I insisted. It was my way of fighting back against the void Mom left. I'd hide my own exhaustion, pretending it was fine when my hands ached from scrubbing floors or my legs burned from biking miles with papers. School was my lifeline. I'd stay late for math club, poring over equations to drown out the hurt. Dad would sit with me at our worn kitchen table, helping with homework when he wasn't half asleep. He'd say I could do anything, that I was stronger than our circumstances. His words kept me going, even when I doubted myself. But Mom's absence was a constant ache. I'd stare at her old photos, wondering why I wasn't enough for her to stay. Those questions carved a hole in me, one I buried under work and study. By high school, I'd learned to depend on myself. I saved every penny, studied harder, and vowed never to need anyone like I'd needed her. Dad was my anchor, but I knew he couldn't carry us forever. I had to build my own path, and I did one grueling step at a time. Still, the weight of those early years never fully left me. I learned to stand on my own early, but the past still haunted me. By high school, I knew my way out was through education. I buried myself in studies, staying up late to master calculus and ace every exam. My guidance counselor saw my grit and pointed me toward scholarships. At 17, I won a full ride to a state university for data analytics, a field that clicked with my love for patterns and answers. That scholarship was my escape, a chance to rewrite my future. But even with tuition covered, I was on my own for everything else: books, rent, meals. There was no cushion, just me and my determination. To survive, I worked multiple jobs. I waited tables at a campus diner, dodging spilled coffee while memorizing code snippets. Weekends, I was an office assistant at a small law firm, sorting files and answering calls. Late nights, I cleaned offices, wiping down desks until my arms burned. My schedule was relentless: up at 5 a.m., asleep past midnight, always calculating how many hours I needed to cover next month's bills. Every dollar went to essentials, with a sliver tucked away for emergencies. I pushed through exhaustion, driven by a promise to myself I wouldn't let my past define me. College was a grind, but it shaped me. I took extra courses, joined data science clubs, and landed a summer internship at a tech startup. The work was intense, crunching numbers for hours, but it honed my skills. By graduation, I had a degree, a stack of awards, and a job offer from a tech company in Orlando, Florida. Moving there felt like stepping into a new world. Orlando's buzz, its tech scene, gave me a fresh start. I started as a junior analyst, pouring everything into my work. Within 5 years, I'd climbed to a senior role, leading projects and earning a salary that felt unreal compared to my childhood. With my success, I never forgot Dad. He'd sacrificed everything running that diner day and night to keep us going. Once my income stabilized, I started sending him $500 a month. It wasn't much at first, but it helped him pay off debts from the diner and fix its leaky roof. Later, I covered his car repairs and even sent extra for a new fridge when his broke. He'd protest, saying he didn't want my money, but I insisted. It was my way of thanking him, of easing the burden he'd carried alone for so long. Every time we talked, his voice would crack with pride, telling me I was his greatest achievement. Those moments meant more than any promotion. Mom, though, was a different story. Her yearly birthday cards still came, each one a cold reminder of her absence. "Happy birthday. Hope you're doing okay." She'd write, her words sharp and hollow. No calls, no visits, just those cards piling up in a drawer. They stirred up old pain, questions I'd tried to bury. Why did she leave me behind? Why didn't she care? I'd push the thoughts down, focusing on my work and Dad's quiet support, but the hurt lingered. My life in Orlando was one I'd built from scratch. I bought a modern apartment downtown, filled it with things that felt like home. My colleagues respected me, and I found friends who became my chosen family. I thought I'd closed the door on my past, that I'd proven I didn't need Mom. But some wounds don't heal, no matter how far you climb. I thought I'd left the past behind until one autumn evening. A sharp knock on my apartment door jolted me from my routine. I opened it to find my mom standing there, her smile wide but unfamiliar, with my half-brother Caleb slouched beside her. It had been over 2 decades since I'd seen her face, and the sight hit me like a wave, part shock, part ache. She stepped forward, arms open as if we'd never been apart. Her voice dripping with warmth that felt rehearsed. "Julia, my sweet girl, it's been too long," she said, pulling me into a hug I didn't return. Caleb barely looked up, his eyes glued to his phone, muttering a half-hearted greeting. We sat in my living room, the space I'd made my own, but their presence made it feel foreign. Mom's eyes darted around, lingering on the sleek furniture, the view of Orlando's skyline through my windows. She started with small talk, how she'd missed me, how proud she was, but her words felt hollow, like lines from a script. Then she got to the point. "I heard you're doing so well," she said, her tone shifting. "A big job. Good money." She leaned closer, her smile tightening. "Caleb's starting college soon. His tuition's $60,000, and we need your help. Just a little support, maybe $3,000 a month to keep us afloat." I froze, her words sinking in. $60,000, $3,000 a month. The numbers were staggering, but it was her casual entitlement that stung most. Caleb finally looked up, smirking. "Nice place, but it's kinda small for someone making bank like you," he said, his tone dripping with disdain. He sprawled across my couch, propping his sneakers on the coffee table like he owned it. You could do better. He added, scrolling his phone again. His arrogance, her calculated warmth, it was too much. My stomach churned with a mix of anger and disbelief. This wasn't a reunion, it was a transaction. I tried to process their request. Mom went on painting a picture of struggle, saying she and Caleb were barely getting by. Her voice was soft, almost pleading, but her eyes were sharp, watching my every reaction. She mentioned my job again, dropping hints about my salary as if she'd done her homework. You've got so much now, Julia, she said. Family helps family, right? The word family hit like a slap. Where was she when Dad and I were scraping by, when I was working nights to afford groceries? Part of me wanted to believe her, to see this as a chance to mend things. I'd spent years wondering what it would be like to have her back, to hear her explain why she left. Maybe this was it, a chance to rebuild. But doubt gnawed at me. Her sudden appearance, her focus on my income, it felt too convenient. Caleb's attitude didn't help. He interrupted her sob story to complain about his crappy dorm, saying he deserved a better car to fit in at college. His entitlement was a mirror of hers, and it made my skin crawl. I kept my voice steady, asking how they found me. Mom waved it off, saying she'd heard things through old friends. Her vagueness set off alarms in my head. I told them I'd need time to think, that $60,000 wasn't something I could just hand over. Mom's smile faltered and Caleb scoffed, muttering something about me being stingy. They left soon after, Mom promising to call, her hug lingering a little too long. I closed the door, my heart pounding, torn between anger and a flicker of hope. I hated myself for feeling. The next morning, I got a text from my mom. I agreed to meet Mom and Caleb at a busy Orlando cafe, hoping for clarity after their visit to my apartment. The place was packed, the hum of conversations blending with the clink of coffee cups. I spotted them at a corner table, Mom with her practiced smile, Caleb slouched with his phone in hand. My stomach knotted as I sat down, their presence pulling me back to a past I'd fought to leave behind. I wanted answers, maybe even a real connection, but their eyes told me this wasn't about family. Mom started with a soft tone, her words dripping with fake warmth. Julia, I've missed you so much, she said, reaching for my hand. I pulled back, keeping my guard up. She launched into a story about why she'd been gone all those years, her voice trembling just enough to seem sincere. Your dad made it impossible for me to stay in touch. She claimed, her eyes wide with feigned sadness. He shut me out. Kept you from me. I tried, Julia, I really did. Her lies hit hard, twisting the truth I knew too well. Dad had begged her to call to visit, but she'd chosen her new life over us. The betrayal stung sharper now than when I was a kid. I stayed silent, letting her talk. She painted herself as a victim, saying she'd been struggling ever since the divorce, barely scraping by. Caleb's future is at stake, she said, her tone shifting to urgency. We need your help to get him through college. Before I could respond, Caleb chimed in, his voice smug. Yeah, I need a car to get around campus, he said, not even looking up. Something nice like a Mustang. And a new phone, this one's trash. His demands were absurd, a $30,000 car and a $1,000 phone, as if I owed him a lifestyle I'd never had. I clenched my coffee cup, anger rising. You're asking for a car and a phone on top of the $60,000, I said, my voice steady, but sharp. Caleb rolled his eyes. You're loaded, Julia. What's the big deal? He snapped, tossing his phone on the table. Mom jumped in, her tone pleading now. We're family, Julia. You've got so much now, can't you share a little? Her words echoed her apartment visit, but now they felt more desperate, more calculated. I saw through her act, the way she leaned on family to guilt me into giving. I took a deep breath, my mind racing. I worked for everything I have, I said, my voice firm. Dad and I had nothing after you left. I'm not a bank. Mom's face hardened, her mask slipping. You're so selfish, she spat. I gave you life, and this is how you repay me. Her accusation cut deep, stirring up old wounds, but I wouldn't let her manipulate me. Caleb scoffed, muttering, Figures you'd be like this? Dad was right about you. His words were a jab, implying Mom's husband had filled his head with lies about me. The argument escalated fast. Mom raised her voice, blaming me for her absence. If you'd reached out, things could have been different, she said, her eyes flashing with anger. I shot back. You left when I was 9. You sent cards, not calls. Don't put this on me. My heart pounded, years of hurt spilling out. Caleb jumped in, yelling that I was too good for them, that I owed them for all they'd been through. The cafe grew quiet, eyes turning toward us, but I didn't care. I stood up, my chair scraping the floor. I'm done here, I said, my voice shaking with rage. I don't owe you anything. Mom grabbed my arm, her grip tight. You'll regret this, Julia, she hissed, her face twisted with frustration. I pulled away, walking out without looking back. Their voices fading behind me. My chest ached with a mix of fury and grief. I'd wanted to believe Mom might have changed, but she was the same, using me just like she'd used Dad. Caleb's entitlement only made it worse. I went home, but they weren't done yet. That afternoon, my apartment buzzer rang, pulling me from a restless attempt to work. I opened the door to find Mom and Caleb standing there again, uninvited. Mom's smile was tighter than before, her eyes darting nervously. Caleb leaned against the wall, scrolling his phone, his expression bored but expectant. My pulse quickened after our blowout at the cafe. I hadn't expected them back so soon. We just want to talk, Mom said, her voice overly sweet, but I felt a chill. I let them in against my better judgment, hoping to avoid another scene. They sat on my couch, Mom clutching her purse, Caleb sprawled out like he owned the place. I stayed near the kitchen counter, arms crossed, watching them closely. Mom started with small talk, asking about my job, but her questions were too pointed: how much I earned, how I managed my money. Then she pivoted, her tone sharp. You're doing so well, Julia, she said. Why can't you help us? Caleb deserves a chance. Caleb nodded, muttering, yeah, it's not like you're broke. Their insistence felt like a trap, and I kept my answers vague, my unease growing. I stepped away to grab water, leaving them briefly. When I returned, Caleb was at my desk, my laptop screen glowing. My heart sank. He was clicking through my browser, my banking app open. What are you doing? I snapped, rushing over. Caleb shrugged, unfazed. Just checking it out, he said, smirking. Mom jumped in, her voice defensive. We were just curious, Julia. You've got so much, why hide it? Her words confirmed my worst fears. They were after my accounts. I yanked the laptop away, my hands shaking. You don't touch my stuff, I said, my voice low but firm. I checked the screen. My financial dashboard had been opened, login attempts logged. My mind raced to Dad. Mom had mentioned hearing things about my income, and now this. I opened my email, heart pounding, and saw a forwarded message from Dad's account detailing my job and salary sent to Mom's address. She'd hacked his email, used his trust to dig into my life. The betrayal hit like a punch. Not just to me, but to Dad, who'd never betrayed her confidence. You hacked Dad's email, I demanded, turning to Mom. Her face paled, but she didn't deny it. Instead, she lashed out. Your dad's a failure, Julia, she spat. Running that pathetic diner, dragging you down with him. I had to know how you turned out so well. Her words were venom tearing into the man who'd raised me alone. Caleb snickered, adding, yeah, he's a loser. You're better than that. Their cruelty ignited something in me. I stepped toward them, my voice steady despite my rage. Get out, or I'm calling the police, I said, holding up my phone. Mom's eyes widened, her composure cracking. You'd call the cops on your own mother, she hissed, standing up. Caleb scoffed, tossing his phone on the couch. Chill, it's not that serious, he said, but his voice wavered. I didn't back down. You broke into Dad's email and tried to access my accounts. That's serious enough, I said, dialing 911 but not hitting call yet. Mom grabbed Caleb's arm, pulling him toward the door. You're making a mistake, Julia, she warned, her voice cold. "We're not done." They stormed out, leaving the air heavy with tension. I locked the door, my hands still trembling, and sat at my laptop. The logs confirmed it: multiple failed login attempts, a browser tab opened to my bank's password reset page. My training in data analytics made me meticulous. I knew they'd been digging for financial details. Mom's hack of Dad's email wasn't just a violation, it was proof she'd never cared about us, only what she could take. The weight of her actions settled over me, a mix of fury and betrayal. I needed to know how far she'd gone. I called my dad to check the truth. Right after their visit, I dialed Dad's number, my hands still shaking from Mom's intrusion. When he answered, his voice was warm but tired, and I hated adding to his burdens. I told him about Mom hacking his email, her lies about him keeping her away, and their attempt to access my accounts. "She's been lying about you, Dad?" I said, my voice tight with anger. He sighed, not surprised. "That's Marie," he said quietly. "She always twisted things to suit her." He confirmed his email had been compromised. Someone had changed his password weeks ago. It crushed me to hear how she'd violated his trust again, but it hardened my resolve to protect us both. I reached out to my lawyer, Mark Sullivan, the next day. Mark was sharp, methodical, and didn't mince words. "This is serious, Julia," he said, reviewing my evidence, screenshots of login attempts, the forwarded email from Dad's account. "We filed for a restraining order at the Orlando courthouse, citing Mom's unauthorized access and Caleb's complicity." The process was grueling, with paperwork and hearings, but Mark guided me through. Within weeks, the court granted a permanent restraining order against Mom and Caleb, barring them from contacting me or coming near my home. The judge's ruling felt like a weight lifted, a legal shield against their schemes. Days later, I got a notification from my bank. Someone had tried to transfer $10,000 from my savings, triggering a two-factor authentication block. I knew it was Mom still digging despite the order. My accounts were locked tight thanks to the security I'd set up as a data analyst. Her failure gave me a grim satisfaction, but it also left me hollow. She wasn't just after money, she wanted to unravel everything I'd built. I reported the attempt to Mark, who filed a follow-up with the court, ensuring Mom faced consequences if she tried again. A year later, my life had changed. Word of Mom's actions spread through her circle. Aunt Ruth Stone, Mom's older sister, reached out to me, her voice heavy with regret. "Marie's been like this since we were kids," Aunt Ruth said, sharing stories of Mom's manipulations, how she'd lied to family, borrowed money she never repaid. Ruth's honesty helped me see Mom's betrayal wasn't personal, it was who she was. Meanwhile, Mom and Caleb burned bridges. Friends and relatives, tired of their lies, cut them off. They moved to a smaller town, their social circle shrinking to nothing, a fitting consequence for their greed. I started seeing Dr. Ellen Brooks, a therapist recommended by a colleague. Dr. Brooks was patient, helping me unpack the trauma of Mom's abandonment and recent actions. "You've carried her choices too long," she said. In one session, her voice calm but firm. Through months of work, I learned to let go of the guilt I'd felt for not being enough for Mom. I realized her absence was her failure, not mine. Those sessions gave me clarity, a way to heal without letting her define me. Inspired by my own journey, I founded a small charity in Orlando, funneling part of my income to support kids from struggling families. The fund offered scholarships and mentorship, things I'd craved growing up. Launching it felt like giving back to the girl I'd been scraping by in Ohio. My friend Kara, a social worker, helped me set it up, her enthusiasm infectious. Nina, a fellow analyst, designed the website, and Ryan, my neighbor, spread the word through his community network. Their support reminded me I wasn't alone. Through it all, Dad was my anchor. I often welcomed him to my apartment, watching him light up at the life I'd built. My friends, Kara, Nina, Ryan, became my chosen family, people who showed up without expecting anything in return. They celebrated my wins, listened when I faltered, and reminded me what love looked like. One evening over dinner with them, I realized something: I had Dad, and that was enough. Family isn't blood, It's the people who choose you, who respect you, who stay. To everyone listening to my story, thank you for sticking with me. I hope it shows you that family is what you make it, not what you're born into. Choose people who lift you up, who see your worth. I'd love to hear your thoughts. What does family mean to you? Please share below and subscribe to this channel for more stories like mine.